So I've been using these JBL Tour One M2s for about 3 or 4 months now, and if I'm being honest, I've not used them every single day. I do sort of jump between these and a whole lot of other headphones and earphones that I have. But when it is approaching my reporting time, I do use these a lot more. And I've been spending a good amount of time with these, and I can honestly say that these have also grown on me, much like JBL's Live Pro 2s. I really do like how JBL has approached this product. It's not just about the build, the unboxing and all, that's a one-time thing, but the features and especially the sound itself, I think JBL has done terrifically well. On a build front, this is fared pretty well. In fact, again, it's always in the case. I've never really put it anywhere or tossed it anywhere unless it's in the case. So the case is a very nice protective one, which I'll show you in a minute. But this is overall built very nicely. In fact, it has a very nice soft grippy sort of feel to this. It's not a typical matte finish. It does look quite nice, and it does have this chrome finish as well on some highlighted parts. So on the inside of the ear cup, this section of the ear cup, this section that says Tour One M2, all of these look very nicely done, and overall even the pad and the ear cups are quite comfortable. In fact, this is a shallow pad and it doesn't cause strain on the head, but the overall feel of this cushion, as you can see, the spring back is quite slow, which means it is quite comfortable. It is a kind of memory foam. It doesn't bounce back immediately, so it's not just a simple sponge, which is nice to see. And of course, I like the fact that the buttons, they've not gone completely touch. They do have a slider over here for switching these on and syncing to a device. They do have a volume up and down button here. Here's where your cable will go in for when you want to go cabled, of course. And on the other small factors of build and detail, you'll see these little meshings in the front. This meshing is actually a protective shield for the microphones, at least I think the vocal ones, and it does have some openings here as well for I presume microphones, and it does have venting ports on the top, so this will enhance, or should I say contribute towards the sound to a certain extent. And overall on a build front, it's still held up pretty well. It does have its ANC button toggle over here and a USB-C connector here as well, and overall on a build front, like I said, it's held up well. On a comfort front, these are they are quite comfortable. They're light on the head. The clamping force, I'd say, is not quite medium. It's a little less than medium, so it's not too tight. I'm not feeling any strain, especially even when I wear specs. If I wear a set of headphones that are too tight with the clamping force, my specs sort of press down and it starts hurting. But this is soft enough, so it doesn't hurt even with spectacles on. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you do wear a set of spectacles. But overall, on a comfort front, it is very comfortable. The only issue I have with any closed back headphones with this kind of material on the ear pads is that it doesn't breathe, and in humid and hot environments, your ears are bound to get hot. This is just how it is. That's how it's going to be. Best to sit in an air-conditioned room, in office or at home, or even if you're traveling. Otherwise, overall, comfort-wise, these are top-notch. I almost forgot to mention about the case, but the case is also a very smart one. In fact, it does have some sort of a fabric finish to it. In fact, if you can hear that, so it is a nice sort of hard shell case, and it does have this little sort of loop over here that you can put onto your bag and all. But honestly, I wouldn't trust this little clip over here. So if this does come away, this can sort of leave your bag, so I'd rather put it into a backpack. And of course, it does have the JBL branding and Tour written on it, which is quite nice. And it has a very cool, well, a smooth operating zip. And the headphones do sit within the case over here. They fold into place, and you also get the charging cable, which is a nice long one, and you also get the auxiliary cable as well. So if you do want to plug into your phone or a high-res player, you can always do that. So overall, I'd say, considering the kind of case this has, is a huge contributor towards how your headphones will look within 6 months, a year, or even 2 years, because it's definitely kept these looking in absolutely pristine condition. Coming to the features on this headphone, well, it does have Bluetooth version 5.3. It's pretty stable. I've not really had any issues with this. It does come with the touch controls and those few tactile controls, which is just the on-off and volume up and down and the ambient aware. I like that it does maintain tactile buttons, of course, and it does have a lot of its features within the app itself. So I'll jump straight into the app and walk you through how it operates. So of course you can see the headphones battery percentage on the app, and you can toggle between the active noise cancelling, ambient aware and talk through mode, and you can also go into the customized ANC mode. The adaptive ANC, I have to say, functions genuinely very well. So I always leave it on. I've found myself leaving it on this set of JBL headphones and the JBL Live Pro 2, because it actually does a good job of understanding the environment around you and adjusting accordingly. A lot of people don't like ANC on Max, so you can do this. And then again, leakage compensation is worth having, especially if you've got glasses on. But the earpads do sort of move around these because they're so soft. The seal is pretty good. And then ambient aware is, of course, when you want to hear what's around you when you're on your walks or runs. And talk through mode is when you want to talk to somebody who's near you. One thing to keep in mind is when you're in talk through mode, if you toggle your volume up or down, it's not going to change your media volume. Talk through's priority is only so you can talk with the person who's near you. So that's something to keep in mind. If you realize that your volume is not working, head on over to ambient aware or ANC mode again, and it should work fine. Personify is something that you can do a listening test with. And when you do the listening test, make sure you do it in a very quiet place. I didn't do mine in a quiet place. I kind of did it in the middle of the afternoon with traffic around my room. That is not the ideal setting. I did it in that kind of setting. If you heard that pressure on, that's the worst kind of place you can do it in. And then you need to put your fan off so it's absolutely dead silent and do the test with. So Personify will give you a customized sort of tuning based on your ears specifically. It does have an equalizer that you can play around with 5 different EQs, and you can play around with the manual EQ that has 10 bands and a plus minus 5 dB gain. So you can really sort of hone it in. You can really fine tune these very well. I like that they've got this low dynamic EQ, which is quite cool, because at lower volumes, it tends to boost the lower frequencies and upper frequencies, the higher frequencies. So you don't, a lot of people crank the volumes very high so that they get that kind of accentuated treble and bass, because at lower volumes, they are lost. This manages to sort of save it at even lower volumes, so you don't have to crank it up too high. So even when you're winding down at the end of the day, having low volume, the dynamic EQ on will help you wind down at the end of the day with a rounded sound. And then of course you get spatial audio, which I've never really been a fan of, because it kind of throws everything a little further out. It is fun for games and for movie watching, but when I'm listening to my music, if I've got a proper centered phantom channel, as soon as this is on, it widens that voice, and a single voice shouldn't be as wide as it is, but it does expand the stage. I can see why people will enjoy this, especially for gaming and movies, but I prefer having it off. And then of course you do get gestures. You can head on into this and sort of customize what you can or can't do. Head on over to my in-depth review if you want to see every little detail and more information about these headphones. Smart Talk is something I always have off, because as cool as this feature is, it's a bit annoying, because if Smart Talk is on and somebody walks up to you and talks to you and you say something, your media is paused and you can talk, or it drops its volume terrifically low, so you can talk to them for 5, 15 or 20 seconds. So even if your conversation is done within, let's say, 5 seconds, and they walk off and it's selected on 20, your music doesn't play back until that timer is up. So instead of Smart Talk, I just leave the autoplay pause on, because all I have to do is remove my right ear cup and it pauses my audio. I converse with whoever and I put it back on and it resumes. So that's a nicer feature to have. But it's nice that they've got both options, so you can really customize this. Voice aware, of course, is for when you're on a phone call. So voice aware feeds in your own voice and it does it really well. And you can decide whether you want it at low, medium or high when you are on phone call, so you can hear your own voice. A lot of people don't like not hearing their own voice from the ambient surroundings. So that's nice to have. Smart audio and video is in typical JBL fashion. Smart audio will choose the best quality codec being played, and smart video is for reducing the latency, so the sync between your audio and video is that much better while you're gaming or watching movies. Silent Now is a very interesting feature I found to be terrific for any flights that you may be on, because there are times where I'm falling asleep and I just have to wake up and turn the volume down or just pause my media. This you can just, if you're feeling drowsy on a flight or wherever, you can tell it when to start, for how long it should run, and let an alarm ring as well. So this, as soon as it engages, it cuts everything out. It is just you and your active noise cancelling. So chances are, if you've dropped out to sleep, this will let you have that rest on a flight. And of course, the alarm can go off in a preset duration. It's a very neat feature. And then you do get the autoplay and pause, like I did mention, and then you do get a personal sound amplification, which is interesting because when it's on, you can decide. Okay, I'm not wearing it, so it's not activating. But what you can do is you can choose to increase or reduce the gain of the sounds coming from outside, more towards your left or more towards your right. So if you're having a conversation with somebody toward your right and you don't want to hear what's happening on your left, you can sort of move this the fader over to the right, and you can hear the people on the right. It's a cool option to have. I don't know how many people will use it, but it is there. And then of course you do get your left and right sound balance if you want to bias it, depending on which side you want to bias. You do get your voice assistant, which you can choose from, and you can change your voice prompt language, and you can switch it off altogether, which is also cool. And then your max volume limiter is nice to see that JBL is implementing this. It caps the volume at about 85 decibels, which should be safe to listen to for about 5.5, 6 hours tops. But I would not recommend listening to your volume higher than that for prolonged periods of time if you do want to preserve your hearing. And then you do get an auto power off, which is nice always on any set of earphones or headphones. And of course, you do get your support function. So your support will show you how to set up the headphones, quick start guide, and reset to factory settings, and so on. And your software update as well. So this software update, in fact, I have just done a software update today itself. And to be completely honest with you, I have had issues with the latest software because it's been very choppy. In fact, getting a few cuts in audio is fine if your phone or your transmitting device is a bit of a distance away. But with this, while I was listening to one song or even moved to the other, for a second I thought maybe the song was buffering, but it wasn't. It was a very choppy connection. So I figured that this was because of the software update. So I figured that they're going to do another software update, but instead of that, that's going to take time. I head into the support section. There is a place where you can reset to factory settings. I did that, and ever since then, it's been playing smoothly. I have not had any more chops in my audio. Moving on to its active noise cancelling, it's a very good performer, especially with that adaptive mode. So when it comes to its adaptive, it does very well from understanding the noise within my studio and downstairs where there is a very busy street. In fact, while I was doing the call test demo, I found that it was terrifically good with all the droning noises. It does exceptionally well. So I can't really complain about the active noise cancelling, especially when it comes to the droning noises. Now you're bound to get random noises that bleed in or kind of freak out the active noise cancelling. I was playing with my daughter's hair clips, so they kind of click into place with a very loud sort of pop. That also does reflect when your ANC is on and on adaptive, or even if it's at max and you do something sudden, it will freak out the ANC. In fact, I've heard from people who'll be on very noisy buses, and they'll say, we went over a bump and I heard a crackling sound. It's the ANC you're sort of overworking. It's trying to figure out what kind of situation you're in. So it's nothing really to worry about. It's just the ANC algorithm that's trying to try and make sure it doesn't pass any noise over to you, but there's only so far it can go. So all in all, it's a very good performer for its active noise cancel. And of course, if you do want to see a demo of this, head on over to my in-depth review, because I do have an ANC demo for these headphones in particular. And the same microphones that govern the active noise cancelling for these headphones also contribute towards the environmental noise cancelling. So if you are on any phone calls and you want to know how this does sound when it comes to carrying your voice over to your recipient, here's a quick demo to show you how your voice would sound in a very busy setting. So I'm calling you from the usual busy street I do all of my call tests from, just to give you a sense of how much of an environment these headphones are going to be battling. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of two-wheelers, four-wheelers, three-wheelers, and you might get the occasional truck that's blowing a pressure horn. And behind me there is some construction work as well. So I have been on the camera microphone all this time, so you can assess the environment around me. And I'll switch over to the JBL Tour One M2 microphones right about now. So I'm expecting this to be a good performer because it was in my in-depth review. And of course, this does come with 4 microphones. So more data points means it can isolate your voice that much better
over all the noise around you. So between then and now, there has been a software update. In fact, I just updated it before coming and doing this call. So I don't know if it's affected the call quality in any way, but you'd be the best judge if you jump between my in-depth review and this recording, of course. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I've got a few people who've messaged me about this is when you do make a call and it connects with your recipient and it starts ringing, the active noise cancelling switches off. So a lot of people think you can't use the active noise cancelling when you're on a call. When in reality, you'll have to go into the app, switch off the voice aware feature. If the voice aware feature is on, active noise cancelling will not work. So you switch voice aware off, and then the active noise cancelling, ambient aware, and so on will work when you are on a call. So that is one thing to keep in mind. So of course, I do hope that this demo has given you a better understanding about this headphone, and I will see you back at the studio.
When it comes to its battery life, this thing can go on for weeks because I'm usually not listening to any audio for over 2.5 or 5 hours because it can get hot for one, and I do like my ears to breathe because it's just not good to keep your ears covered for beyond that much time. So if I'm using this regularly every day, I might charge this up maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks just to give it a top up. Not that its battery has gotten low, because one thing that will factor into the battery life is how loud you listen to them. And I don't really listen to this beyond maybe 45-50% volume most of the time, especially with the active noise cancelling on. But I can see a lot of people pushing it towards maybe 70% volume because these aren't exactly the loudest set of headphones, but that kind of volume output will make a difference toward your battery life. But honestly, it's a terrific battery, and honestly, anything beyond 24 hours I think is pretty great. So even if you need emergency battery life, you can do a quick charge. In fact, a quick charge of 10 minutes will give you a whole 5 hours of listening time, which is impressive. So all in all, even if you just need a full charge by the morning, charge it up at night, or when you go for a shower, you'll get a good amount of juice out of this on a battery front. And moving on to the most important thing for me, the sound. Well, honestly, these have been growing on me a lot ever since I've started spending more time with these, approaching this long-term review. One thing to keep in mind is if you're looking for a loud set of headphones, this is not it. And I'm surprised I'm saying that about a JBL product, but it's not tuned to be loud. It's tuned to be composed. It knows what it's doing with its music. So when it comes to the volume increase is not very linear. So 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way up to 50%, it's kind of very gradual and very slow. And then when you take it up to maybe I'd say 65 or 70%, there's a sudden jump in the overall volume, and every increment after that is even more exponential compared to its lower range when you're boosting it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And I usually keep that 85 decibel limit on because these can get loud when you go past the 75 to 85% volume. They do get loud, but it won't reflect the same when you're boosting it from your phone especially. So it's something you can get used to, but in time obviously. But on a volume front, again, at lower volumes with that dynamic EQ on, that's where I normally use it. That's where I am sitting at maybe the 40 or 45% volume, or even sometimes as low as 30 when it's really quiet around me. So this is one thing to keep in mind. If you are a loud listener, these headphones may not be for you. But moving on to the rest, well, I found the overall imaging of these to be terrifically good. In fact, it's not the best out there, in the sense it's not audiophile level, but I think it sits very well with its competition. So in fact, I've been tempted to compare it to one or two headphones that are on my headphone rack at the back, which hopefully will happen soon. But I think that it is at par with them. In fact, it might supersede them when it comes to its detailing. It's not. What I like about it is the details are not pin sharp. They are not piercing. A lot of companies or brands try to make their details so sharp that it can get a little uncomfortable. This one is kind of rounded around its edges, so it's very enjoyable to listen to, especially when you want to focus in onto certain nuances. Its soundstage is fairly standard for a set of closed back headphones, so you can play around with that, the whole spatial audio thing, but to me it's more of a gimmick. It's fine, it works okay, but moving on to the other points of delivery when it comes to its highs, mids and lows, it is a bit boosted in the highs, it is a bit recessed in the mids, and it is a bit boosted in the lows in typical Harman style. They are following some sort of Harman curve for sure. But nothing is accentuated to an extent where it hurts the ear. It's still very easy. Vocals are nice and soft and smooth in their delivery. There's a good amount of separation between instruments and vocals, whether in the mid-range or even the higher range. Percussion sounds very well defined, very well detailed, and the bass is not. It's not big, and it's not well, it's not bloated in the sense where it's going to eat into your details and your mid-range. So the bass is strong and heavy enough to enjoy a lot of music, be it acoustic or EDM and so on. In fact, I always have the EQ off with this. I like how these sound out of the box. I very rarely gone into club and the other options they have, and even if I choose anything, it's club, because that's a very small increase in the highs and the lows. So overall this sounds very nice, even straight out of the box. And of course you can play around with that EQ that is within the JBL Headphones app. So would I recommend these headphones after all this time? Well, it's only been 3 or 4 months, and honestly no issues have really cropped up, except for that glitch with the transmission with my music, and a simple factory reset did sort it out. Apart from that, I've not really had any issues or discomfort with it, except for maybe my ears getting hot, which happens with any set of headphones that don't breathe. Any closed back set really does that with me. So all in all, I still do really like these. They've held up very well on a build front. There are no scratches and scuffs because I always put it back into the case, which is a very nice premium case that does look after these well. And on a feature front, head on over to the feature chapter, because that app is so detailed. Most of your features are in there. You can really customize these headphones to make them yours. So it makes sense to spend time with these headphones when you first set them up. And battery life is of course quite terrific. And if you're interested in knowing how your voice carries over on any phone calls, if you've missed the call chapter, you can head on over to that chapter to see what it's all about. And on a sound front, I think, well, I've genuinely enjoyed this. In fact, I've been listening to a lot of music today in particular, because I have freed up before doing this video. So I said I just want to enjoy these headphones, and that very rarely happens, where I just want to sit down and enjoy my music with a product that I'm reviewing. Usually it's just, let's get it done, let's spend time, and things are very serious. But these have put a smile on my face. They're genuinely very nice sounding and very likable. They've got their own character. They've got a very nice sort of confident posture in what they're doing. They're not trying to impress you. They know what they're doing. They're doing it quite effortlessly. And of course, if you do want to tweak the stuff, you've got the EQ, of course. So anyway, moving on to the price of these. Well, at the time of recording this video, these do have a maximum retail price of 34,999 rupees, which is of course on the higher end. But you can make these yours for just 19,999, and considering the competition it's up against, I think this price is fair. It does have the build to match. It does have a terrific case, an overall feel. It does feel quite premium, and when it comes to the sound compared to those, I'd have to match them up. I'd have to do that comparison. So if you are interested in knowing about how this would stand up against maybe the Sony XM4 and the Yamaha E700A, I've been toying with this comparison, but I've not really gotten down to do it. But if you are interested in me doing that comparison, do let me know down in the comments below. So I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I do hope that I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you would like to help support the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning into Paul's POV for some sound advice.